Hey, this is Danielle. Welcome to the Traders Investment Plan. This is the 24/7 wealth generation plan that I have come up with as the Vice President of Options here at Simpler Trading. So, let's go ahead and dive into the introduction. Before I start, I want to go over a couple different housekeeping items. Number one, as far as the class outline goes, this class has multiple chapters and each are covering a specific topic. These topics are going to intertwine, but at the same time, each has its own moment to shine. So, when I'm going through the chapters, you might feel like, oh, I really need a little bit more information on something that you just mentioned. Keep in mind that it's likely mentioned again in a different chapter in more detail, and it will be covered at that time. Because the class can be complex, it might kind of feel like you're jumping around from topic to topic. But in the end, I promise everything is in order, it all makes sense, and everything is broken out into chapters so that if you have questions on a further chapter, you can go ahead and dive deeper into that chapter in particular, rewatch the recording, do the quizzing at the end, and ask me additional questions if you need. But by the end, it is going to make sense. There's going to be a lot of different examples in this chapter, in all of these chapters, and by looking at them, by the time you get to the end of the class, you're going to have a much clearer understanding of what is overall going on. Now, if you have to leave early, don't worry. Everything's recorded. You're going to be able to go through the recordings as you please at any moment in time in your recording folder. There's also homework to go along with this class. You can find that homework in your class folder. You just simply log in to Simpler Trading, go to My Classes, click on your Traders Investment Plan, and scroll down to the bottom. You will be able to see a homework folder, and that is where I have added a bunch of additional information for you that will help you along with this class. Now, if you have any questions about your class or how to access any of those things, please email support@simplertrading.com. If you have a question for me as it relates to the actual content or trading, then you can find me by emailing me at danielle@simplertrading.com. So, here is our overall agenda. This is what we're going to be going over during the course of this class. Number one, we're going to be talking about seasonality, why it's important to buy at specific times and how to recognize those times before they come. We're going to be discussing how to grow your portfolio. Next, we are going to talk about how to rank selections by risk. We're also going to be talking about identifying key macro parameters, how to use technicals, how to analyze fundamentals, and I'm going to be going over my checklist. This is the checklist that I put everything through to determine how strong of a pick the overall investment is. And then we're also just going to discuss a little bit of averaging in addition to exit scenarios. So for those of you who may not be familiar with me or with Simpler Trading, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview. At Simpler Trading, primarily the majority of our traders, we trade a lot of options in a directional manner. We make picks based on, a combination of technical and fundamental analysis, and we make a lot of different types of trades. These types of trades are selected based on patterns known as setups. These setups are specific high probability patterns that we use to get into a variety of different trades. Now, while a lot of our traders trade options, we also trade futures, and me in particular, I trade a lot of options in a directional trend following manner with an emphasis on relative strength, but I also build long-term stock accounts as well. Now, a lot of these different factors, they overlap throughout my trading, but overall, I like to use directional methods. I use a lot of macro analysis, top-down analysis, and it all comes together into one specific strategy. This strategy that we're talking about today is how to build an overall investment account or improve upon what you may already be doing. So let's go ahead and talk about really the 7 different factors that we are going to be looking at throughout the course of this class. All right. These are very critical, and these are the ones that we are going to be going over today. So, risk gauge is absolutely important, okay? Looking at a spot on the risk gauge, I mean, everybody's going to have different risk parameters. I'm definitely going to be talking about my risk parameters here today. We're also going to be talking about a calendar-based system. This goes into seasonality. So when is it a good time to add stocks? When is it not a good time to add stocks? How can you add stocks in different market environments? We're also going to be talking about entries with an edge. Are you getting in at a good time? If you're not getting in at a good time, you probably don't have an edge. Next, we're also going to be talking about macro backing. Basically, this just means, what's going on in the world today. Is the current situation in the world today something that is benefiting the company that you're looking at? Then, what about technical strength? Technical strength just speaks to the overlying or the underlying technical pattern. Is this a pattern that is going to be beneficial for you when you're looking at investments or not? What about fundamentals? Fundamentals are something that we don't talk about as much in options trading, but it is something that's really important when you're building investment accounts. So I'm going to tell you what the most important criteria are for me. Then the last piece of it is really just running your picks or my picks through this different system to see, are these components working for you or not? And really the key here is, are enough of them working for you? Because there are going to be times, and we're going to go over this a little bit later, where maybe you have a risky pick that perhaps doesn't really have good fundamentals, but perhaps these two are working for you. So we'll talk a little bit more about all of that later in the class, but overall, this is what we are going to be covering here today. So let's go ahead and get started.